Please welcome to the stage, Tom Green.
You've all travelled thousands of kilometres to hear me tell you about something that energy experts have been saying for years, but our industry's been pretty slow on the take-up. What I'm about to share is not simply my opinion, and I'm going to demonstrate using facts just why energy efficiency is our essential first fuel. But don't be fooled into just thinking it's my opinion. When I started Enginuity Power Solutions, I was absolutely full of opinions. One of the things that really started to irk me was the thought of renewable energy riding in on horseback to save us all, right? It just left me shaking my head. The answer was energy efficiency first, and that was it. At the time, as I said, I had my opinions, and there was nothing in the world that would sway me from those opinions. And that was until I was reminded by the great Mr. Tim Minchin to think about things a little bit differently.
Be hard on your opinions. A famous bon mot asserts that opinions are like arseholes, in that everyone has one. There is great wisdom in this, but I would add that opinions differ significantly from arseholes and that yours should be constantly and thoroughly examined. We must think critically and not just about the ideas of others. Be hard on your beliefs. Take them out onto the veranda and hit them with a cricket bat. Be intellectually rigorous. Identify your biases, your prejudices, your privileges. Most of society's arguments are kept alive by a failure to acknowledge nuance. We tend to generate false dichotomies and then try to argue one point using two entirely different sets of assumptions, like two tennis players trying to win a match by hitting beautifully executed shots from either end of separate tennis courts.
So during our time together today, what I want to do is challenge you, just as that I've been challenged, to think again about our most appropriate solutions that we can deploy. Now, the first steps towards solving energy challenges we face today, may not be what we think. So the information regarding, a shift toward renewable energy generation, be that embedded or utility scale, it's available in abundance, right? It's everywhere. But having the ability to look at some of this information, apply it to what I know, challenge my biases, it's, led me to, be hard on my opinions, take them out the front, bash it with a cricket bat. And today, I just challenge you to be open to be able to do the same. So what do planes, chocolate, and fish all have in common? The answer is probably going to surprise you, but these represent three distinct industries where we've applied our established yet underutilised resource that requires no mining, produces no emissions, is abundantly available, and delivers financial returns much faster than wind and solar. It's not a new technology waiting to be deployed, it's energy efficiency, and what the International Energy Agency has rightly labelled the first fuel, the energy that we don't waste. This is the IEA Executive Director, Fatih Birol. And as he emphatically states, energy efficiency is the world's first fuel and our main route to net zero. For years, our team at Enginuity has been engineering innovative power solutions all across Australia, from the iconic Cadbury factory in Tassie right through to the Snowy 2.0 project. And through the work, we've seen firsthand the profound truth of this statement. Often, the most powerful energy solution isn't generating more energy, it's simply using what we have more efficiently and better. Today, I want to strengthen this case that energy efficiency deserves to be at the forefront and our priority in the transition to a more sustainable future. I'm going to share some real-world examples that demonstrate the remarkable impacts, and they're going to challenge you to rethink your approach to future energy projects. So why energy efficiency first? Well, when we talk about energy transition, the conversation will generally jump straight to generation. Solar array, wind, even nuclear. Now, these technologies capture our imagination with their visibility and their boldness, but there's an invisible giant hiding in plain sight, and it's the inefficiencies that are built into our existing systems. It's a pretty staggering statistic. Electric motors consume over 45 to 50% of all of the energy that is consumed globally. Now, these motors power everything: HVAC systems, industry, mining. Yet, most of them operate in an outdated manner with outdated technology, inadequate control systems, and in some instances, they're running continuously regardless of demand on systems and the output that's required, and they just waste enormous amounts of energy. It's not new information, right? But energy efficiency experts have long recognised the potential, and according to the IEA's latest analysis, energy efficiency can deliver up to 1/3 of the emissions reductions required between now and 2030. Let's explore that a little bit more. So we all work in industry with, we'll call this an average size manufacturing plant. Now that plant would consume roughly 400,000 kilowatt hours a month, 4.8 million kilowatt hours a year. Looking at cost of energy, not your network charges and environmental charges, talking about $600,000 a year, right? And that plant, consuming that energy, contributes roughly 2.9 million kilograms of CO2 every single year. Now, look what happens when we look at that energy efficiency first approach and apply some of that theory back into practice. Put it into perspective, we're talking about a reduction of 1.4 million kilowatt hours a year. Now, to produce 1.4 million kilowatt hours a year, we're talking about a 1.3 megawatt solar farm. All that benefit without laying a single panel. Equating to roughly, on energy costs alone, not your network charges and things, $200,000 a year. And a reduction in 864,000 kilograms of carbon. All of this is achieved by doing less and not building more. Furthermore, those panels, we're talking about 5 hectares of space to deploy a farm of that size, right? That's 5 international rugby pitches. So between 2010 and 2022, energy efficiency reduced global emissions by 7 gigatons. And that's a big number, right? It is a big number because that's equivalent to the combined annual emissions of the United States and India, reduced globally through energy efficiency alone. Give it some more perspective. It's equivalent to every single car in the world running flat out for a year. That's 1.4 billion internal combustion engine vehicles. All those emissions, what? Gone. But here's what's truly compelling. Efficiency isn't just good for the environment, it's good for business. According to the IEA, global investment in end-use energy efficiency, including sectors like buildings, transport, industry, manufacturing, the sectors that we work in, are projected to reach around US $660 billion in 2024. Now, this is approximately 10% higher than all expected upstream investment in oil and gas for the same year. Now let's bring this to life with 3 real-world examples that will demonstrate the extraordinary potential of energy efficiency. Case study 1, Hobart International Airport. This one will probably speak to a few in the room, but Hobart Airport recently deployed their first 100 kilowatts of rooftop solar. A visible, commitment to sustainability, the generation, positive publicity and all those things. Great initiative. But when our team analysed their energy use across the precincts, we found that there was one single hangar in the freight precinct that was still running outdated discharge lighting, and this lighting ran 24/7, 365. The wasted energy from this building alone equaled the entire production of that 100 kilowatt solar array. Not energy consumed, energy wasted. So to put it into context, a 100 kilowatt solar array in Tassie is going to produce roughly 300 kilowatt hours a day. 110,000 kilowatt hours a year. The wasted energy, not consumed, wasted, was 100,000 kilowatt hours of energy for a 12-month period. Think about it for a minute. We're going to put the solar panels and we're going to put the LED lights in a boxing ring. Who wins? Well, in this instance, the light bulb was They win hands down, round 2 knockout. So the energy wasted through inefficient lighting in one building equaled the entire production of a 100 kilowatt solar array. Upgrading the lights to LEDs with a little bit of smarts, a few sensors, as you would all agree, is going to cost significantly less than deploying 100 kilowatts of rooftop solar. And the best part? The ROI, 15 months. The solar array, with the data that's available at the moment through real-time energy monitoring, we're looking at about a 6-year return on investment. Now, what I struggle with in this scenario is if that solar array, if that solar array is simply offsetting a blatant waste of energy, can we actually sit there and high-five and say there was actually any environmental benefit into doing it in the first place? This isn't isolated, right? So there's businesses all across the country that are displaying panels and, they're high-fiving their commitment to, environmental sustainability. But the truth is, they're operating inefficient systems with those operations. In Launceston, we examined another prominent building, again, proudly displaying the rooftop solar. On analysis, what we found was the electric motors powering the HVAC systems, constructed in 1970. The energy wasted, not consumed by those motors, was far more than the solar array would produce in a 12-month period. And here's the thing that was said just before. Energy efficiency works for you 24/7, 365. It doesn't matter if the sun goes down or the wind stops blowing. And a lot of our systems that we work with through industry operate 24/7, 365. At the end of the day, wasted energy, I believe, is like a leak. Now, if your family car was leaking fuel, would you find a cleaner fuel to leak on the ground, or do you fix the leak? It's the same thing, right? I want to take you now to the aquaculture industry. Somewhat contentious at the moment, but here we are. So we've recently worked with an aquaculture company who were running multiple pumps on a common manifold that were continually pumping water. Now, land-based aquaculture operation is in the business of moving bulk amount of water to basically keep livestock healthy, right? So on our analysis, what we revealed was that by replacing a single asynchronous motor and pump with a more efficient motor, with a little bit of smarts again, adding variable speed drives and controlling, system flow, we could reduce energy consumption by 42%. That's an annual saving of $177,000. So energy consumption reduced by 42%. Now, when we expanded this across the whole system, and we're talking about 19 pumps working in tandem, again, talking about a 2-year return on investment. We're talking about in Tasmania, which is 100% renewable, we still have a carbon coefficient equaling 212,000 kilograms of CO2 every single year attributed to that one system. And to achieve the same environmental benefit, we'd need to roll out 922 kilowatts of solar. It's another 2 to 3 hectares of land. That's another 3 rugby pitches. It's equivalent to a small suburb that contains 60 houses. Now, land use is becoming increasingly more important. Even in countries like Australia, urbanisation, is causing the rapid growth of cities. People are struggling to buy their first home. Land prices are continuing to rise. So there are only a certain amount of rooftops, right? And there's only a certain amount of size on a rooftop that's usable. Land is a precious resource. So in reality, we installed a few pumps and a few motors in space that was already dedicated to those pumps and motors. We didn't take up more than a few square metres. But here's what's most striking. Examining that one pump in isolation, as we said, was pretty good, right? But when we optimise the whole system, that's where the magic happens. So it's like comparing a single solar panel to a solar farm, right? The sum of all those moving parts, we get to a point where 1 + 1 = 3, or in this instance, 1 + 1 = 4,000. So now imagine rolling this ideology through all of the systems that we work through, and all of the cities and all of the countries. What are all the sum of those moving parts? And I'm going to take you to somewhere we all like, and it's the Cadbury factory. It's chocolate, right? So the iconic Cadbury factory in Tassie, again through analysis, we identified that many of the motors used in the compressor applications were just grossly oversized, and it's common practice, as we all see, through the industries that we work with. We oversize motors, we oversize systems to produce what we need to produce. But through the analysis, and then implementing the appropriately sized high efficiency motors and the right control systems again to manage all of the outputs, we saw some big results. But without many of those optimization strategies, the motors and the systems that we work with run on methods like throttling and choking. It's the equivalent to driving down the road with your handbrake on, just to control your speed. It's ridiculous, right? The data that we collect, it gave us the information that we then use to probe how things work and probe how the client thinks how things work, right? It gives us that hard and fast. And so when it comes to manufacturing, the size and the efficiency of motors matter a lot because most of them are pretty big, right? And over time, these oversized motors working in inefficient ways just burn heaps of energy. So by precisely matching the right size motor and the right control system, again, we get those huge improvements in energy consumption. Well, these particular improvements, they resulted in 1.2 million kilowatt hours of energy consumption being reduced. And that's enough power for 180 Australian homes every single year. Again, we're talking about one system in one factory. Translates to a CO2 reduction of 240,000 kilograms, again in Tasmania where we're 100% renewable. Furthermore, another 1.1 megawatt of solar panels would need to be deployed just to offset the wasted energy in this instance. And here we go again. We're talking about another 3 to 4 international rugby pitches. So the result isn't just reduced emissions, but lower operational costs, and ultimately that improves competitive advantage in a very tough economic climate. But I don't know if you've picked up on where we're going with this. Everything starts with measurement, right? And I think Fiona mentioned it yesterday. You cannot manage what you don't measure, as the great Peter Drucker is credited with saying. So using advanced power analysis, we collect data on energy consumption patterns. We collect data on power quality issues and system inefficiencies. And this gives us the insights that we need to develop tailored solutions to each client. So we'll get practical just for a second, and we're going to highlight some of the key technologies that we use in all of the strategies that we deploy. And none of it's all that groundbreaking, right? So we've got synchronous reluctance motors. Now, these are the most efficient electric motor on the market in the world. Basically, they operate by producing 40% less losses than the standard asynchronous motors. Now, if we've got something that consumes 50% of the world's total energy consumption, why wouldn't we try to optimise that, right? Variable speed drives coupled with these motors, again, gives us the ability to control the output of the motor. It gives us the ability to optimise how much energy is being used to produce the same amount of work, or in some instances, even more work. Active harmonic filters. These complex devices look for noise on the sinusoidal sine wave to clear up inefficiencies and those, I guess, causes of early failure of equipment. And then there's the real-time monitoring systems. And this is where the magic happens, right? Because this gives us the ability to identify where these optimisation strategies can be deployed. It gives us the ability to continually inspect and track how things are going to then make better decisions and actually optimise the way things work. Now, why solar PV installations typically have a payback period, like we said, exceeding 5, 6, 7 years. In most instances, energy efficiency improvements have an ROI inside 2 to 3. And sometimes it's less, right? So this makes them particularly attractive in today's economic society. So beyond direct energy savings, energy efficiency improvements deliver numerous other operational advantages. Reduce maintenance costs, decreased downtime, extended equipment life, improved product quality, enhanced system reliability, and baseload reduction. So for an organisation focused on those social, governance, the environmental, social and governance, ESG principles, right? What energy efficiency improvements do is it gives you a platform to monitor and verify how things are going, and that resonates with stakeholders, right? And here's a perspective that might change just how you think about your business. But by identifying and addressing the inefficiencies that competitors overlook, contractors can differentiate themselves in a marketplace, create other business opportunities, all while delivering tangible results to our clients. We've built a business on a different model, one where we create our own projects. We don't tend to work. All of that just by identifying how things could be better for our clients. Now, this approach allows us to operate with not much competitive pressure, all while delivering exceptional value to the people we serve. So why now? The urgency for energy efficiency is increasing. And again, according to the IEA's latest report, in a pathway that's aligned with reaching our net zero goals by 2050, accelerating energy efficiency improvements can deliver 70% of the projected decline in oil and 50% of the projected decline in gas demand by 2030. So that oil demand reduction is basically equivalent to the total amount of oil consumed by China in 2024. And the gas demand, that's Europe's total natural gas consumption for the same period. Yet, despite the overwhelming potential, the progress for the deployment of energy efficiency is slowing down. The rate of change in primary energy intensity, which is the main indicator of energy efficiency, improved by just 1% last year. That's half of the average rate over the last decade. Now that's of concern because nearly 200 countries agreed at COP28 to collectively double the global rate of energy efficiency improvement by 2030. Yeah, we're not on track to reach that target. But why now? Well, because it's your kids and my kids that are going to inherit the world that we're going to leave behind, and I want to do my bit to make it a bit better. So as electrical and communication contractors, we're uniquely positioned to drive the efficiency revolution. You guys work with the systems and the customers every single day that consume energy. You understand the intricacies of those systems, and you've got the relationships with your clients who trust your expertise. The opportunity before us is immense, and in the IEA's net zero scenario, investment in efficient buildings, transportation, and industry needs to triple from that US $660 billion to $1.9 trillion by 2030. I just want a little bit of that. That's all I want. And it's not all about saving the planet. That's pretty important. But it's also about creating new business opportunity, delivering better value for our clients, and establishing yourself as a leader in the most important energy transition that we're ever going to face. Now, I firmly believe that if we shift our perspective just a little bit, and if we start looking for these energy efficiency opportunities that are everywhere, they're all around us, we can create a profound impact. Now, as I wrap, I'd love to hear what you think. I want your thoughts too. So I'm going to invite you to take out your phones, scan the QR code, and tell us what you think about the proposition that energy efficiency is the first fuel. As I often say, anyone that consumes energy can consume it better. It's plain and simple. With a curious mind and a desire to do things a little bit better, we can find a solution, and they're everywhere. And with more of us doing the same thing, the sum of all those moving parts equal an even greater result. Friends, I just want to leave you with one thought. Excuse me. Energy efficiency isn't just the first fuel, it's the smartest fuel, and it's waiting for us to harness its full potential. As I mentioned at the beginning of our time together, my opinions were heavily biased. Heavily biased. Energy efficiency made so much sense to me in my mind that it was the only option that should be considered when looking to reduce environmental impact. It's akin to the two tennis players who were playing winning shots from two separate tennis courts. However, my opinion was that energy efficiency and renewable energy deployment could not and should not coexist. But through continually challenging my biases, I've come to realise that once these efficiencies are realised, the deployment of especially embedded renewable generation is going to play a critical role in our pathway to net zero. And it's not that one opinion is better than the other, right? It's that without being open to understanding how each serves the other, there's no possible way of meeting our ambitious goals. It's plain and simple.